Layers are one of the most important features in Photoshop, so it's important that you understand how they work. Basically, layers let you combine different things in your image, whether it's text, shapes, or other objects that overlap. They can also be used to adjust the image in ways that you may not have realized. Why don't we take a closer look? This image actually has 4 layers. It might help to think of them as transparent panes of glass. When they're stacked on top of each other, they appear to be flat. But if you pull them apart, you can see that they're all working together to create the final image. There are many types of layers in Photoshop, but they fall into 2 main categories: content layers and adjustment layers. Content layers are pretty self-explanatory. They contain some type of object, like text, a graphic or a shape, or even your main image. Adjustment layers are a little different. Instead of containing an object, they have an effect on the layers below. In this example, we have a levels adjustment layer, which is making the cake image just a tiny bit brighter. Adjustment layers are a type of non-destructive editing, meaning they don't actually change anything about the original image, they just sit on top. So you may be wondering, why even use layers? Wouldn't it be easier to just work with everything in your image at once? The truth is, layers are useful because you can work with them independently. That gives you a lot more flexibility and control. Once you get more comfortable with them, you'll use them in your projects all the time. To get started, make sure the Layers panel is visible. It's usually found in the bottom right corner. If you don't have it, you can go to the Window menu to turn it on. There are some other features you should know about that'll make working with layers a whole lot easier. For instance, using the buttons at the bottom of the panel, you can delete your current layer or create a new one from scratch. There's also a way to duplicate layers, which is similar to using copy and paste. To do this, you can right-click the layer you want, then choose Duplicate from the menu, or you can simply drag and drop the layer to the New Layer button here. This will create a copy automatically. I don't really need this though, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. Now, one of the best things about layers is how flexible they can be. You can hide them or change the order that they're in, all without making any permanent changes to the image. Hiding a layer can be useful if you want to get it out of the way, for example, so you can edit some other part of the image. All you have to do is click the eye icon next to the layer you want. As you can see, this works for adjustment layers too. Now we're looking at the original photo without any alterations. To turn the layers back on, just click the icons again. The order of your layers also plays an important role in the final image. As you might have gathered, layers at the top of the list always appear in front of layers at the bottom. To change the order of a layer, select the one you want, then drag and drop it into place. Just be mindful of any content that overlaps with the layers below. You might end up covering parts of your image by mistake. Let's go back to the original order, with the cake layer in the background and the levels layer down here. The last thing I'd like to show you is how to edit the contents of your layers. You can do this using the options in the Tools panel and also the Filter menu. Every layer is different, so not all tools and filters will work for the layer you have in mind. Still, there are some basic tasks that you can learn that'll definitely come in handy. To get started, select the layer you want to work with. Otherwise, you might end up editing the wrong layer by mistake. Next, click the tool you want to use. We'll choose the Move tool. Now watch what happens when I click and drag on the document. It moves the text layer only, because that's the one we have selected. We can do the same with the rings layer. There we go, that looks good. What if you have an adjustment layer and you want to revisit the adjustments you've already made? All you have to do is select the layer and the Properties panel should appear. Now, in my case, I actually closed the panel earlier, so I'll need to double-click the layer icon to reopen it. Now we can make whatever changes we want. I'm just going to adjust the hue again and try reducing the saturation instead. The process for editing text is just as easy. All you have to do is double-click the layer icon. This lets you edit the text directly in the document area. When you're done, press Escape on your keyboard, and that's it. There are lots of different ways to use layers in Photoshop, which is something you'll get a better feel for over time. For now, you know everything you need to get started, including what layers are for and how to work with them in your documents.